buggy bumpers. Oh, that's okay. Rubber
She
baby
sells
buggy.
seashells by the seashore.
Sally sells seashells.
Do you actually do those exercises, Tom?
Every day, right before the show. Aluminum linoleum.
The bank robber had oddly shaped feet, or what was it?
I don't know that one.
No,
that
that's the
doesn't
one from.
sound hard to say at all.
No, that's the one from Ron Burgundy, where he right before he goes broadcast, he has his little vocal exercises.
The bank robber had oddly shaped
feet. And then the human lordship, the human torch applied for a bank loan or something. It's really weird.
Yeah.
YouTube is
human torch applied for a bank loan.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to just make a hash of that one now, am I? Although maybe it helped that you guys all took an attempt at it.
But you have pressure.
It's pressure, but also familiarity that are battling in my head now.
I have long made jokes about how, like, that is an element of all of your success for which, like, I know I just don't have talent. Is the like, let's read off the feature list of the new hardware stories, like that. Just not. I have a very high opinion of my talent. That is something I do not feel that I have any kind of a business doing. But it always impresses me that you have a commitment to, like, the full back of the box feature.
Well, for good or for ill, we're going to put it to the test again in a moment.
Let me hide.
Okay.
And then I only have control.
Do you have control? I don't think
no,
I gave you
I do not have control.
There you go. All right. And I gave Roger the producer's privilege to interject in our Nintendo conversation if he just can't stop himself. Otherwise,
I probably won't, because my mic will probably be off.
That's right. Exactly. All right. Here we go. 3, 2.
This show is brought to you by audience members like me, not outside organizations. To find out more, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, October 20th. Happy birthday to my brother Tim. 2016, I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Mr. Justin Robert Young, co-hosting as he does most Thursdays. How are you, sir? Welcome back.
It's good to be back stateside. You know, I'm glad to be out of the clutches of Europe, and I'm glad that there's nothing else European that's followed me back. Here to the Daily Tech News Show. USA, USA, USA.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that sentiment, and now I feel a little awkward introducing from France and Finland, Patrick Beja, who's joining us again today.
Oh, no, quarantine! Close the doors before anything else gets in.
You don't have the wall yet. So I'm free to come here. And also I was told I was invited here in the capacity of an audience member of a political debate. So I should just sit back and just refrain from applauding or making any sorts of comments.
Please remain silent until we ask you to ask your question to Mr. Young.
Except for right now, as the candidates make their way out.
No, we asked Patrick to come back because we're talking about Nintendo's new console, the Nintendo Switch, which we will discuss at length after we get through the rest of the top stories. But just the short version is it's coming in March 2017, and it's a hybrid tablet console. So Patrick has been following Nintendo. He's would you say an enthusiast? Is that a good choice of words?
Yeah, I'm a gaming enthusiast and definitely a Nintendo enthusiast.
So we'll talk about that in a bit. Also, Google's Daydream VR headset just went up for pre-order in the UK, Germany, and the US. Now here are some more top stories. Razer just announced an update to its 17.3-inch Razer Blade Pro laptop. The line now starts off with a 2.6 gigahertz quad-core Intel Core i7-6700HQ Skylake processor, an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1080 desktop card, PCIe M.2 SSD storage ranging from 512 gigabytes all the way up to 2 terabytes if you want, 32 gigabytes of 2113 megahertz DDR4 RAM, standard. It starts there. You could go up. Killer Double Shot Pro Pro NIC, that's Killer the brand, not my own description of the NIC, does 802.11 AC Wi-Fi and gigabit Ethernet. A USB-C jack that doubles as Thunderbolt 3, so you can get up to 40 gigabits per second bandwidth. The multi-touch display has a 3840 by 2160 IGZO panel. It also comes with HDMI ports, 3 USB 3.0 ports, so we're not going only USB-C. Has an SD card reader, and as for the keyboard, The Verge's Vlad Savov called pushing the buttons a joy. They really like the keyboard over there. Trackpad sits to the side of the keyboard rather than below, which in the picture is to the right. So left-handers may have an issue with this. I don't know if they'll have different configurations there. All of it fits into a 22.5 millimeter thickness and 7.8 pounds or 3.54 kilograms of weight. The Razer Blade Pro starts shipping in November for a price of $3,699.
You got to wonder if that's modular, that you can either by factory or even at your house flip the configuration.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
You mean the keyboard thing, especially? Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it looks like a beast.
It is a desktop. I mean, everybody says this is a desktop in a laptop. This is literally a desktop in a laptop. That GeForce card in there is the desktop card. If you missed that part, that is not the 1080 mobile card.
It's, these things are transportable. They're the kind of thing that you can take around with you if you move around, if you're a pro gamer, these kinds of things. So calling it a laptop is a little bit misleading, but it's portable.
Yeah. I mean, it will technically sit in your lap.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
But it's also almost 8 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, it has a listen. Your car is also mobile. It doesn't dainty or cheap.
And that we don't see the power supply, and I'm suspecting it's not tiny.
There's a separate backpack for the power supply that you need.
Exactly. No, listen. The good news is it has a readily available power supply called diesel fuel.
Yeah. Right, you just plug that generator in. No, this thing is a beast, and it's really nice, and it's an update to the 17.3-inch Razer Blade Pro, and quite an impressive one at that. I'm not going to get one necessarily, mostly because of the price point, but if this is what you need, even honestly, if you're not a gamer, if you just need a portable, high-powered computer for, I don't know, AutoCAD or 4K video editing or something, this could be the beast.
Well, yeah, this is basically the best computer you can buy, desktop or laptop. It's the top of the line components. So that says something.
Tesla announced Wednesday that all new cars in production will be equipped with, quote, the hardware needed for full self-driving capability, end quote, including the Model 3. The hardware includes 8 surrounded cameras, 360-degree visibility at up to 250 meters, 12 ultrasonic sensors, and a forward-facing radar, as well as a more powerful onboard computer. Self-driving will not be active in these cars, but features will be added by software as they are tested. However, the system will collect data on driving conditions to help Tesla develop autonomy. Tesla plans to demonstrate the tech by having a car travel from LA to New York without any driver guidance by the end of the year, which, looking at my Apple
end of
Watch,
next year, yeah,
not far away.
End of 2018, I thought.
Oh, end of next year.
2017. Sorry,
2017. Yeah,
end of next year.
So, year and change to do it. This is obviously going to be something that Tesla wants to make a big deal about. They've gotten certainly battered about this year with a lot of what they call their autopilot feature. It's going to be, we are moving into a more mature area for self-driving cars. I mean, that is something that's kind of beyond conversation at this point. The question is, how do we handle it now that it is real? Do we want to buy it? Do we want to legislate around it? Do we want to make it easier? Do we want to make it tougher? Not only here in the US of A, but also in Europe. So, and Asia and everywhere else. So, I think it's going to be interesting, but this seems, in reading between the lines here, like a Tesla that's kind of learned a very small PR lesson from this year with if you look at the way that they launched autopilot, right? where it was, let's call it autopilot, number one. Let's bring a bunch of people, a bunch of tech reporters in, and we'll put them on a roller coaster track and effectively try to spook them with how fast it goes without hands on the wheels. This seems like moderate. This seems like a solid step that you would want from a technologically progressive car company like Tesla.
And yet it's a big leap to just go ahead and future-proof your cars. I mean, there's a couple of risks there. One is raising the cost of manufacturing for a company that still isn't showing a profit. The other is saying these are the sensors, these are the computers, these are the radar that we're going to rely on for several years, so we're going to go ahead and put them in now instead of equipping them after market. Now, granted, Tesla probably prefers to do that because there's supply chain efficiency, so maybe that makes it worth the cost. But you're taking a big risk that these are all going to work with software updates down the line and work well.
Well, there's also a couple things here. Number one, Elon Musk has said that retrofitting with these sensors after the fact is almost as expensive as the car. So the only time it does make sense to put them in from a price capacity is in the manufacturing phase. Obviously, you can't turn around a car in a calendar year. These things are very long in production. But also, there's the fact that they moved back the delivery date for the Model 3. That's obviously what they are banking on, Tesla going from a luxury brand to something that a more average, from luxury to merely kind of rich, people will be able to buy them. And this is what they want to be kind of a standard element. They want people to think, and maybe this is a little bit of explanation of why they want to push things back, is that, well, hey, look, sure, you're not going to get it when we initially told you to, but look at what's going to be there when you do.
Yeah, exactly. And you know that your car will be able to do cooler things with every software update because of that. Airbnb announced Wednesday it will ban users from listing multiple houses for rent in the cities of San Francisco and New York under a policy called One Host, One Home. For a restrictive policy, it has a real snappy name. Airbnb introduced the policy for New York on June 1st, but says it now has technology to enforce it that will go into operation on November 1st. They didn't make clear what that technology was. Airbnb will introduce a 3 strikes policy for violations as well. A bill that would fine short-term rental operators for violating New York state laws, in other words, hitting them with a fine, arrived on Governor Cuomo's desk Wednesday. He has until October 29th to sign or veto the bill, and indications are he'll probably sign it.
Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
No, please. I'm only merely European.
I talked the entire last segment. Go.
So it's kind of interesting, these kinds of, Airbnb working with the administration so much. I think the curmudgeons are going to say, well, you can always create multiple accounts and you can fool it. And yes, that is true, but it still makes it inconvenient enough, and it points out the legal questions enough that I think it is going to have an effect. And that's a clever way of trying to appease everyone. So I wonder if they're going to implement these outside of in other administrative areas, maybe not limited to one, but maybe have 1 or 2 or 3 properties to make sure that people don't actually make this into a full business, which of course is not regarded kindly by the authorities usually.
So the funny thing about Airbnb is compare them to Uber. Uber and Airbnb have both had this sort of like hard hat, go to war mentality when it's come to bringing their service into various cities. Now, obviously, Airbnb is a trickier situation in places like San Francisco and New York, where you have a gigantic population density and people tend to own multiple places that they can list on a service like this. However, Uber, for as violent as they have been in terms of introducing themselves to markets, has actually been very quick to make peace as long as peace falls short of their terms of negotiation, right? Like that they won't do what Austin's asking them to do. But short of that, sure, they'll put in a way to hail taxi cabs if you have a deal with that union that can't be broken. Sure, they'll do handicapped available rides. Like every time that you go to a different city with Uber, that menu very often is very different. And a lot of those times it's because of the city that they've made the deal with to operate there. This, to me, is Airbnb growing up a little bit and saying, you want to know what? Just hiring lobbyists and putting up snarky posters and staging your protests ultimately is not going to really be how you grow your business. Once you've broken in and people have understood the value that you can give to them, you got to make peace with the people that run the city, the state, whatever locality you're trying to be there. And this, to me, is a good sign that Airbnb is growing up a little bit.
And I think the key will be what Patrick pointed out. Will they do this in other administrative regions, especially if those regions don't require it? Right now they're doing it in San Francisco because there's pressure on them to do it. Right now they're doing it in New York because it's about to be illegal for them not to do it. Will they be more conciliatory in cities that would just like them to do it rather than hitting them over the head as they've been in San Francisco and New York? I mean, New York has laws in the books that says, New York City has laws in the books anyway, that says certain buildings can't rent out for less than 30 days at a time. And that's going to hit Airbnb where they live if they need to comply with that. So it remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Just one very quick mention about what you were saying, Jerry. For us, in France at least, it's completely reversed the image we have of Uber and Airbnb. Airbnb has been the relatively conciliatory one, and Uber has been the one that stomps in with their big boots and doesn't want to talk to anyone and just does what they do. So it's funny. I mean, in the past 6 months, it's changed quite a bit for Uber. But if you asked anyone in France, they would say Airbnb, yeah, whatever. Uber.
There are not a lot of hotel workers burning overturned hotels in front of Airbnb.
Yeah, it's funny though, because there is just a different. There's obviously different ecosystems, and they serve different needs. Airbnb at the end of the day is their value proposition is, number one, hey, do you have empty place that you would like to get money from? Cool. Okay. That's going to be sunk, like just value that you can generate out of nowhere if you have that place to give. But from somebody who wants to stay in a hotel, it's not that much cheaper than an average hotel, especially if you're just moving through town.
And you don't have a lot of the same amenities and things like that. Yeah.
In Paris, it is. In Paris, it is significantly cheaper, but Paris is a very touristy city, and the hotels, although there are many, are obviously very expensive if you want to stay in.
I'll tell you what, we stayed in Airbnb all throughout London and Edinburgh, and both of them were cheaper than hotels. We very much enjoyed it, but Uber is a different thing. I think. To understand Uber's success, you really need to understand how frustrating taxi cabs and taxi cab unions were in the very diffuse cities of America.
Well, I think it's telling
that's why Uber works in Paris and in France and in Europe as well. That was basically in many cities the same situation for Uber.
I think it's telling that Airbnb is having these issues in cities that have housing crunches, where people are complaining that it's unaffordable to live, and then they see someone buying up a house and renting it out on Airbnb rather than making it available at a reasonable rent, and it just causes already flaring tempers to flare up even higher.
That's 100% the issue here in San Francisco. Is that this is very often the fight is not about the fight. The fight over Airbnb in many ways is not necessarily about Airbnb.
If only we could go back to a more simpler time like the 1940s, Justin.
Indeed. Kodak. Remember them?
Yeah.
Let me hear it from all the Rochester listeners. Grab a garbage plate. We got a Kodak story for you. Kodak's released a smartphone named after its 1940s era Ektra camera. The second smartphone from Kodak has a curved bottom like a camera grip and a leatherette back. The Ektra has a large steel-rimmed 2.0 f-stop aperture and a 26.5 millimeter lens, 21 megapixel camera capable of 4K video, and uses a Sony IMX230 image sensor. The 5-inch phone is made for Kodak by Bullet and runs stock Android 6.0 with Adobe Lightroom, Snapseed, VSCO, Prisma, and Kodak's prints apps are installed. The Ektra will be available in Europe for £449. That's 499 euros this December.
So not coming to the U.S., Patrick. Here you go. You get one before us.
Yay, that is so exciting. I can barely contain myself.
It's an interesting take to be like, we're going to take the nostalgia for Kodak's brand and try to package that in a smartphone with a high-quality camera.
I think they could do it. They could make their, return their brand to the front of people's eyes by saying, we're going to build the best damn cameras in any phone you've ever had. The problem is then they go with a 6.0 Android, and it's, for that price, it's probably not going to be the best, I'm guessing, but it's not going to be the best device ever. And we all know that in phones today, the photos are made in equal parts by the lens and by the software. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's going to be awesome, and I applaud the idea. I think there's something there.
Here's the problem for Kodak. Unfortunately, as smartphones have ripened, the one thing that everybody, and we're talking about the big boys of the industry, Samsung, Google, Apple, have all honed in on is people want cameras. They want the highest quality images that you can possibly get. That was 2/3 of Apple's selling point for the 7, especially when they have a gigantic refresh coming next, reportedly. Same thing with the Pixel. Same thing with the Samsung phones that don't explode. Cheap shot. I'm sorry. The point here is Kodak needs to create. If Kodak wants to recover their brand, they need something that is creating head and shoulders better images than their competitors. Because otherwise, why would you want a okay phone experience on a good or great camera? This has to be a phenomenal camera, and I just don't think it will be.
At a London event, Google announced Coldline, a new cold storage archival cloud service for data, not cold storage for meats or anything. Coldline will cost 0.7 cents per gigabyte stored per month, with retrieval, remember this is cold storage, retrieval costing you 5 cents a gigabyte. Google has committed to keeping latency in line with its other cloud storage offerings. Similar online cold storage options from places like Amazon Glacier, for instance, can have latency measured in hours. So Google is offering up a faster access to your cold storage. It's also offering a switch and save promotion to enterprise customers, giving you 100 petabytes of free storage for several months as an incentive. So don't burn them to disk. Don't put them on tape. Just store them in the Google Coldline cloud, and you'll be able to access them really fast.
This is a great business for Google to get into.
I mean, they have the power for it, and they need to do something to deflect attention away from Amazon, which is dominating this kind of stuff.
I'm curious, how does it work exactly? Is it tape that they store outside of the reader, and then they have little robots that go and retrieve the tapes?
No, I don't think that's it, but I do want that service now, just because I want to watch the camera of the little robots going to get the archival tape. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that you would have thought if we were to flash back 8 years ago, 10 years ago, and think about the kind of businesses that Google, with its famed expanse of data storage, would get into. It would be more of this stuff. It's why it was such a shock that it took them so long to get into Drive, that it took them so long to get into storage in general. But, it makes sense. This absolutely makes sense. The NBA announced that it will stream 1 game per week in virtual reality throughout the 30-week season starting October 27th. The streams will be viewable on the Next VR app for the Gear VR platform and available to people who pay for NBA League Pass. The broadcast will have multiple cameras and dedicated announcers. NBA in VR, Tom. It's fantastic.
I mean, it's so funny. I read this story and I'm like, you have to want to use VR, and you have to have a Gear VR, and you have to be a Gear VR user who pays for NBA League Pass. Like, this is an experiment. And then they go and they say, we put dedicated announcers on this. So it's a high-level experiment. Like they're saying we want to make this a service, so we're going to try it out, because they can't be expecting high usage right now.
I mean, you got to figure that part of the reason why they're doing this with Samsung as an exclusive partner is because Samsung is subsidizing them to send one crew out to a game per week. That's going to set that up. You know, I'm very curious what a dedicated VR announcer is, because I don't know. Like, I'd be actually interested in it. I have a Vive, so I won't be able to use it because I don't have a Samsung Gear VR. But as a tentative NBA fan, I think I'd be interested in trying it out. But I don't think that at any point I would be saying, oh, man, if only the professional announcers from ESPN or ABC or TNT were out of here. Forget you, Marv Albert. I want to hear whoever Samsung has paid to travel to Golden State.
Sure, but on the other side, I think this is interesting because what I assumed when I started reading this story for the first time was, okay, so they're going to set up a couple of 360-degree cameras. They'll hire a switcher to go back and forth between them, and then we'll just hear the announcers from ESPN, and maybe it'll make sense. Instead, they're saying, no, what would a virtual reality broadcast look like? They're going to do custom graphics as well. They're saying, let's try to do a native VR broadcast, which means having our own announcers. Now, granted, your point is well taken. They won't get the top-of-the-line announcers for this, but at least it'll be people who are seeing the same thing that you're able to see and could do things like, folks, look behind you, right? Because that's not something you would say on a normal broadcast, but you can instruct people like, you're going to want to look to the left right there in this replay, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, my thought is not necessarily that there's a problem with having dedicated announcers, because I think if this were to become a thing, I would like there to be dedicated announcers in the final form of this. But I'm this to me screams, let's just do I don't know. For whatever reason, it feels to me like this press release is the most exciting part of this entire enterprise. But we'll see.
Well, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit and helps us pick the stories of the day. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. All right, let's get into the details of the brand new Nintendo Switch. No longer the NX, the Nintendo Switch arrives in March 2017. Console consists of a tablet that sits in a dock. That dock then connects to your TV, and it plays like a home console. You've got a controller, you sit on the couch, everything works as you might expect. Then you can slide the sides off of your handheld controller, Nintendo calls these Joy-Cons, and connect those to the tablet, which you can then remove from the dock by the television and take that away and do mobile gameplay of the same game you were playing, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what they're implying here. The Joy-Cons can also be used with the tablet unattached. So they showed a picture in the video they released today of a guy sitting in an airplane, a couple folks at a table playing some basketball. Games will be distributed on small SD card-like cartridges called game cards, kind of similar to what you had for the DS. A custom NVIDIA Tegra processor is inside, powering the graphics. And Nintendo also announced a list of 48 third-party game devs and publishers who say they will develop titles for the Switch. So we don't get a price, we don't get a release date, we don't actually get specs. In fact, Ars Technica's Kyle Orland did some visual analysis of the photos to find out that it looks like it's a 6.5-inch screen. So this is tinier than your regular 9-inch tablet like an iPad. The controllers seem to be slightly smaller than the NES controllers, but almost the same size, if you want to imagine that. Otherwise, we don't really know anything else about this but the concept, which is the way Nintendo wants it right now.
Patrick, what do you think?
There are, we don't know a lot, so we can guess a lot, and that's always fun. But we do know a little bit. I can rush to the end immediately, and then we can go back and discuss all of the details. But I think the really important part of this console, ultimately, it's just a new Nintendo console. We haven't heard anything that is incredible about it. We knew all of we knew all of the rumors. The thing that did jump at me after a little bit of thought is you can use those two side controllers, which are two halves of a controller, independently to play a 2-player game on the console, on the tablet that has a kickstand. And I think that is going to be a decisive factor, because this is not going to be primarily aimed at all gamers. It's going to be just like every portable Nintendo console, aimed at teenagers and kids. And when you have one kid who comes to school with their Switch, puts it up on the desk, and gives a friend a controller to play together, that is inherently social and shareable. It's a shareable experience that is going to get, to spread like wildfire, because I think it's going to help people want, the people who have one, their friends are going to want one as well. So that's the one difference, I think, with every other product that's been out there in the gaming space. And then we can, discuss everything else, which is a little bit less surprising.
Yeah, we don't know if it's got a touchscreen on it. We don't know a lot about it, but we know it's meant for mobile and console. So it kills the Wii U. I don't think any of us are going to debate on that. What does it do to the DS?
So the 3DS is immensely popular right now. I think I can't remember, 50, 60 million consoles installed base. Maybe that's a little bit too much. It's in the tens of millions for sure. And it's going to be phased out. The thing is, it's ancient technology. The 3D never really mattered, but the capabilities are really, they were old when they put the console out in 2011 or 12. So it's not going to go away immediately, but I do think that what Nintendo is doing with this is they can't compete against smartphones entirely in the portable space, and they can't really compete against Sony and Microsoft in the home console. So they're taking their two markets, unifying them into one market to make one strong one instead of two weak ones, despite what they're saying officially about the 3DS, which is the Switch is squarely a home console. It has nothing to do with the 3DS. It's not competing with that. That's just not true. It's managing the expectations of the 3DS owners.
Can I ask you a question here, Patrick? Because you worked in kind of games for a while, and especially in terms of explaining projects and everything as they came along. What is the strategy of announcing something like this now in October for a release in March, which for those of you who do not own a calendar is after Christmas, when so many people buy consoles, especially for a youth-focused market? Why not hold this off later, or why not push it up to release 3 months earlier?
I think ideally any manufacturer would like to release their new device during the holiday period, but in this case, it's a case of making sure everything is cooked, everything is ready, because they made a grave mistake with the Wii U. They didn't have among other issues, which are communications based. Nobody knew what the Wii U was when it came out. But it also didn't have enough of a software library. I think they're pushing the release as far as they can to make sure that they have a very it's a French word that you use in French to say that, a very well-populated software library. But at the same time, they need to make sure that the enthusiasm for that console is drummed up and that people know it's coming out. Usually, these consoles are announced way before, maybe a year in advance, at the very least, 8 months. So here, it's already kind of late, and I think they wanted to make sure that people knew it was coming, and it's easy for us to know that this is going to be coming because we're in the tech and gaming world, but they need the parents and the kids to understand that this is coming in March, and that takes time. It's going to take 3 months for everyone to go through the motions of the PR cycle. First a small announcement, then demonstrations, then you get to the more wide stream outlets, etc., etc. It takes time.
I mean, that is an awkward window, though. right? Because you would, March is effectively their message to parents around the world are just, tell your kid that they'll be getting this thing in 3 months and not on Christmas Day, right? Like it seems awkward.
It definitely is. And again, it's not ideal, but I think they chose the lesser of two evils, which was give themselves time to make sure it's a good release and not a quick release. And because they couldn't handle, if they released it, even 4 months early or 5, because, for Christmas, you can't release it on December 15th, right? It would need to be November at the latest.
Yeah.
And so even giving yourself 5 extra months to give get this quality software you need, it's extremely important. And in this case, especially when the console first comes out, Nintendo doesn't really need to make a lot of Nintendo can sell consoles no matter what initially. So I think they're going to live on their brand anyway, so they don't need. It would be better to get it available for Christmas, but it wouldn't kill them. It won't kill them as it would another brand to not have it at Christmas. So they can.
Nintendo does this a lot, where they just. They've put things out in the spring before that are surprising. And I think what they realize is we're Nintendo. We do things on our own schedule. We have a lot of fans who will buy it no matter when we put it out. And all we have to do is have a Mario or Zelda game out at the holidays, and a bunch of people will run to buy not only that game, but the console that it plays on if they don't have it already.
I think in this case, they're going to need a Mario and a Zelda game available not at the holiday season in 2017. They're going to need to be available when the thing launches. They can't afford to mess up this one because it's kind of the last one. And as much as I love Nintendo, the NVIDIA Tegra chip that they have in this thing is, it's an NVIDIA Tegra, which means mobile class device. It's great. It's apparently a 720p resolution, which is great for the portable version. But when you plug it into the TV, 720p is good. But it's coming out now when 4K is sort of becoming popular.
But that's always the Nintendo knock, right? The Wii was underpowered, the Wii U was underpowered, and let's just leave the Wii U out of it. The Wii was underpowered, and people still called it a success.
Well, the Wii is kind of an anomaly in Nintendo's history. It is a very strange, success that gamers wouldn't really call a success gaming-wise, I think, in many ways. But in this case, they do need to convince gamers. And yes, you can, in this day and age, as long as you're HD, you can woo people with style rather than polygon count, and that works to an extent. But when you're talking about a mobile class GPU on a giant TV screen, it does hurt your prospects a little bit.
The key with the Wii was, you know what? It's not the greatest resolution, but we have this crazy motion control, which everybody's going to love. What they seem to be banking on here is, well, we've got this tablet experience that people are going to love. They're going to love that flexibility. And Justin, I'm curious, what do you think of this idea of a game console that you can take with you, and how well do we actually expect that to work in practice?
Patrick would probably be better to talk about the possibility of what it can be. Personally, I don't have a whole lot of need, or at least I don't think I need necessarily when I'm playing my game of Hearthstone to have it thrown up on my television seamlessly. Now, maybe if I had that option, I would like it to do it, and maybe there will be other solutions that bring me closer to that. Ultimately, though, I think this is a mobile system with high-powered for mobile games that are exclusive to it. And if those are great, which in their very, very well done commercial that they debuted today, they made a point to show off, as my colleague Mr. Beja said, a well-furnished lineup of games and titles that ranged from the staples of Nintendo like Mario Kart and Zelda to third-party stuff like Skyrim and NBA basketball. I don't know. I started off thinking that this is going to be absolutely ridiculous. And then as I watched the commercial more and more, I thought, you want to know what? Maybe this makes a little bit of sense. But here's my question to Patrick: what is an amazing price for the Nintendo Switch? What is a fair price for the Nintendo Switch? And what is a way too expensive price for the Nintendo Switch?
Amazing, $199. That's incredible. Fair, $249. I think they could potentially push it to $299, but that would be a little bit too expensive, I think. Above $299, it's dead on arrival. That I don't believe they can make it. The thing is, ultimately, it's going to live on its games. And the questions you're asking yourself, Justin, am I interested? I think there is a market for it, for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, there is one, and it's because they have Nintendo games on it. And lots of gamers want it. But do they want it enough to pay more than $299? I don't think so.
Well, the NVIDIA Shield, which everyone's comparing this to, right? And even I, when I looked at it, was like, oh, it's an NVIDIA Shield with a dock, with a better dock, I guess, is $199. So in people's minds, they're going to be comparing it to that price. So I think you absolutely nailed it, Patrick. At $299, you can say, well, I guess I'm paying a Nintendo tax because this is an updated version of the Shield. It's got more storage, or it's got a better Tegra processor inside. But much farther beyond that, I don't think anybody would tolerate it. I think $199 almost has to be the price because of that comparison.
Well, I think ultimately it's going to be $249. Hopefully, $199.
Now you're just splitting the difference to make yourself safe in your prediction.
well, no, because it's still, $199 would be a killer price. That would be insane. I don't think, and I think as mobile as the device seems. And it definitely seems very mobile to everyone. The reason why they're insisting that this is a squarely home console is that the price is not going to be the one we expect for a mobile device. I think it's going to be, unfortunately, $299, which I think is a little bit too expensive.
I actually like what Lynn is saying in the chat room. $199 solo, then like bundled with a controller, maybe it's more expensive. Then you have a $249, a $299, etc. Because there is that separate controller they have that they're calling the Nintendo Switch Pro, which is your traditional controller that doesn't have the slide-off bits.
It won't be included for sure. I think
it'll be
whatever
a bundle.
the price
It'll be a
is.
more expensive bundle and sold separately.
Yeah, maybe.
That's my guess.
Yeah. I'll tell you, here's the only question, and back to Patrick's original point about its shareability, that you'll be able to put up the little kickstand and play with your friends. They make a big point in that commercial to show a bunch of hip happening bros after throwing down some b-ball that they're going to play their NBA 2K game. Number one, how does that network? Because they make a point to show it not connecting with wires. And number two, how fun or comfortable is it to play with those with two hands on those controllers? Because they look, even in that commercial, kind of awfully small.
Yeah,
like
well, those guys have
little,
huge hands.
A little like it's like a bunch of human hands are fondling these Kit Kat break off pieces.
Well, again, I think it's aimed at teenagers and kids. Ultimately more, and this is the kind of thing, they want a tablet. A tablet is $500-$600, maybe a little bit less, but if this is $250, maybe you can give it to them more easily. And but actually the problem of size, and we all know size doesn't matter, but sometimes it does, here is not necessarily going to be for the controllers. I think the UI is going to be the big problem, because it's a much more difficult problem to get your game to work on a big screen and then on a small screen. It has to be a different kind of UI and even a different perspective. When you look at the NBA 2K thing, when they're putting it on the floor and sitting 2 feet away, you can't really see all that well. When you're a foot away, it's okay. 2 feet away, it becomes very small. So I wonder how they're going to tackle that issue as well. And all of this is going to be key also.
Yeah, I was just looking at a link that Lynn put in the chat room to a PC Advisor story that said Tesco in the UK accidentally published a page before the Switch was announced that said the Nintendo NX would sell for £349. Granted, that's probably not even an official price. That's just a placeholder, and somebody put a guess in there, but it does sort of push me towards thinking this thing might be a little more expensive.
You know, sometimes they do this, and I'm not saying that's the case here. Sometimes they do this intentionally to lessen the shock of the price when they actually announce it. £349 though, that would be 400 euros probably.
Well, yeah, I mean the pound's worth like 20 cents now, Justin. On
20 pence above the dollar.
Yeah, so almost parity. Well, I think the last thing I want to hit before we get off this topic is I love that Nintendo just announces stuff, gives us a video. They don't make us sit through a dog and pony show for an hour and a half, and I seriously appreciate that. I do think it's interesting that they're doling out the pieces little by little, though, so that we're all hungry to hear the next announcement, and they'll get a whole other news cycle when they announce that price and release date, for sure.
You know, what we really want are the games. We want to see the actual games.
I think that to me is, from what they said in that commercial compared to what Nintendo has done in the past, the big difference was we're going to have a steady drumbeat from now until March about all the rad games that are coming out, and they are either going to be available at launch or within 6 months of launch, like something that's like very, 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 very close.
All right, let's get a message of the day from Matt, the proud patron in Vegas, writing regarding Le Echo's bicycle. Said, I wanted to say, sign me up for an Android bicycle. I'm certainly an Android fanboy and also quite in need of a power-assisted bicycle. I have a partially severed spinal column from a few years ago and fortunately have maintained some use of my legs, but a motorized bicycle is something I've been looking into in order to exercise and keep movement throughout my legs. If I can use a good app for tracking that exercise and movement, it could be extremely useful. For someone like me, who could perhaps use that data to plot daily pain levels or medication intake, this could be a huge win, because the bicycle would be all tied into that. Thank you, Matt, for that insight. And thank you, Patrick Beja, for dropping in on an off day and sharing the Nintendo insight. Super valuable. And where can people find more of those sorts of insights on video games and things?
You can go listen to Pixels, which is a gaming show I do twice a month. It basically summarizes all of the important news from the world of gaming and makes it fun to listen to, hopefully. The last episode, we reviewed the PlayStation VR to excruciating details. Well, half an hour or so just on the PSVR. So you can find that at FrenchSpin.com.
And Mr. Justin Robert Young, what do you got going on these days?
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but apparently there is a election going on here in the United States. Now, don't worry, what I'm not going to go into. You can listen to Politics, my political show, if you want to hear more analysis of what happened. But the contender, the game of presidential debate, which we have available at thecontender.us, we have put in our order officially for our Vegas expansion. So all the best quotes from last night can be a part of your game if you go to bit.ly/Vegas debate. Well, I mean, what are some of the quotes going to be? I'll tell you what, you don't have to be a nasty woman or a bad hombre to say that. I'll leave you in suspense.
Check that out, folks. It's only going to make the Contender an even more fun game to play. If you haven't picked up
and by the way, in all seriousness, as soon as we put in the order and we have how many we have left, these have gone extraordinarily fast. So if you want one, like this is like, obviously I'm selling this, but just so you know, if you're a fan of the game, get it now. Don't wait a couple days because they are often gone in a couple days.
Hey, we thank everybody who makes this show possible, whether it's by telling folks on Twitter. A good handful of you posted about the show yesterday after I asked you to. You guys are the best. Thanks to everybody who supports us through PayPal, through our store, buying T-shirts and mugs, or through Patreon. Patreon.com/DTNS. A big welcome to our new patron, Caden Carlson, who just pledged an hour or so ago. And thanks to Todd Marco, who just doubled his pledge. You guys are awesome. Big thanks to every single person who supports the show. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Darren Kitchen and Len Peralta. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
That was a great conversation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, here's one question that we didn't get to. Do you think is this going to have a browser or wireless connectivity?
That's another.
You mean like
4G or?
Yeah, well, it's got the Tegra processors indicate that it'll have at least Wi-Fi, if not some kind of LTE.
Oh, Wi-Fi,
service,
of course.
Yeah.
But that's another. That's the other big question. I mean, there are a few we didn't get to, but that's a big question because if you have a browser, then the 3DS has a browser, so I do think it will. But then you sort of turn it into a little bit of a tablet. How tablet-y is it going to be? Are you going to have apps? You're obviously going to have a store. You're going to have a YouTube app. I can't imagine a thing that kids can use and parents can buy for kids without a YouTube app so they can watch their, songs and shows. But how far do they go is a huge question. I have no idea.
You know what else is a huge question?
What the title is.
Titles. I actually don't think. I think the resolution for the Switch will be much higher. I don't think it'll be 720.
Well, that's what the chip is, right?
No, I haven't found anything on the specific.
I've heard 720 somewhere, but maybe it can go to 1080. The problem is more going to be the 3D, the polygon count and that
well, I mean, it's probably teraflop. The what?
The teraflops. How many flops?
The NX was a bait and switch. How's that for a bait and switch? Technically, a laptop. Awesome's Razer. Merely European. I think they spelled merely wrong. Right? A switch in the system. Gamers now have a switch to scratch. Nintendo switched its name. Nintendo knows Nintendo knows which way it's heading. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Size doesn't matter, but sometimes it does. Will you switch? Which one?
Size doesn't matter, but sometimes it does. It doesn't.
Oh, jeez. Oh,
I'm voting for myself.
Don't switch to Nintendo. Oh, joy, -con. One switch fits all. And there's still a lot of question marks.
I like Awesome's Razer.
I think it's
kind of nice. Nintendo. Switchway is up. Ah! What do you guys like?
The Joy-Con, though, there has to be silly puns with the Joy-Cons. I didn't mention enough how silly I think that name is.
Oh, yeah. Almost as silly as Wii. Should we do Switchway is up? Anybody care?
Sure.
Awesome's Razer is good, too. But Switchway is up works as well.
Gets Nintendo in the name.
So all I know is it's a Tegra, but it could be the Tegra X2.
I think it's going to be a custom Tegra.
It is a custom, yeah. That was actually said by NVIDIA, but that's all they've said about it.
It's going to be powerful for sure. It's just...
Yeah, I don't think the visual... I mean, I'm not as...
Maybe not today, but on a big screen in 3 years...
I watch YouTube videos that are kind of crappy because it's just great funny content on a giant.
No, I know. I mean, the 3DS is doing wonders, even though the graphical capabilities.
I mean, really, if you're worried that much about, they could effectively basically ditch certain aspects of the graphics, like what it chooses to render to basically increase the actual resolution. Right? They could ditch.
Of course.
So
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course.
there's a number of ways to do it, but I don't actually see it being the Achilles heel. I think the biggest one is just getting enough software developers on board to kind of crank out games that people actually want to play.
Yeah, and we didn't mention this, but they have a lot of third-party developers on board at the moment. They made a point of that as well. Oh, I guess you did.
I mentioned it
Yeah,
in the
you did
setup,
mention
but
it.
yeah, we didn't talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is, they compared to the Wii U, it's a crazy number of developers. But
Yes.
then,
Yeah.
if compared to the Wii or the GameCube, it's not that many more. It's all a question of what games do they actually develop and bring to the platform. And
Sure.
Yeah.
and Nintendo, by showing things like Skyrim in that video, is trying to imply, no, they're going to bring their A game stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Skyrim is a game from 2011, so
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing is the Wii had a lot of shovelware. Like there were publishers, but they were cranking out games that weren't necessarily of even decent quality, like something you would give to someone for Christmas.
have you seen the graphs of the number of consoles sold by Nintendo over the course of their life for the home consoles?
I saw one from 5 years ago.
Because it is striking. Basically, it's a downward slope, extremely rough, with one spike for the Wii. Every other new console sold less than its previous than the previous one, and significantly. It's very, very stark. So I really don't think we should take the Wii as an example of, something that is representative of what Nintendo does on the home.
Are you saying
market.
it's the exception that proves the rule?
I'm saying it's an exception. It's an anomaly. It's an anomaly. Let's call it an anomaly.
Anomaly. Is that a French word?
Isn't that a French
They could
movie?
also they could also have another GPU, for example, in the dock that could improve the graphics.
That's
could
what.
be
Yeah, some people
interesting.
were. I saw that there was some speculation that that's going to bump things up for the TV.
Could be interesting.
Maybe. That seems like an awfully expensive way to create a stand that doesn't do anything. I mean, I don't know. I think that would be a pretty risky product move to basically create a dock that is. I'm still trying to figure out how that would even work.
Yeah, it's complicated because then you have to have the games that are programmed twice, kind of. But then, PCs, you take advantage of whatever power you have, and
but
all of the consoles are PCs now, but this is not a PC architecture, so I don't know.
Well, at the same time, you're also not pulling a video card out for your PC when you travel and then sticking it back in and picking up the game where you left off.
It's more like
No,
what
of course,
the
that
Surface
doesn't matter.
does with
You
the,
can change
with
the
Pro.
setting. You can change the settings.
Well, no, I'm
dynamically.
talking
And now
more
you have
about-
the PS4 Pro and the PS4 and the Scorpio and the.
Well, that I'm sure of, but I'm just saying, as they're not modular systems, right? The Scorpio and whatever the PS4 Neo, whatever the heck they called it, Pro, they're not modular units. You're not taking a bit of it off and then reattaching it in order to get that extra graphic capability.
No, it's like Microsoft's Continuum, or the Android stuff that does that. Where you can,
I think they could figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a very inefficient way to do it, though. I mean, just from an architecture standpoint. I mean, you got to then build a bridge and then a link, and I'm just thinking it's just. I'm not saying it's I'm saying it's not. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying like to go that route is like a huge expenditure of money.
If it allows you to get better graphics on the TV, decent graphics on the TV, it might. I mean, we don't know. Maybe they're absolutely not considering it, but at the very least, I'm certain they're going to make the GPU run faster when it's docked. I'm
That
sure.
could very well be. It could actually run at a higher resolution when it's docked because it has
exactly
the power,
exactly.
but it would need it for a smaller screen.
Yeah.
I
so many
have the
questions.
power.
So many questions. I can't find the installed base for the 3DS. Oh, 60 million. I was right. Damn it.
60 million what? Oh, installs.
3DS. Yeah. 3DS available. I mean, install base worldwide. I was right.
do-
That seemed too big.
I do want to play Breath of the Wild on this.
Everyone does.
Yes, I know.
I mean, yeah, they have Breath of the Wild, and the difference with the release of the Wii between the GameCube and the Wii is that very, very few people have a Wii U. So basically, it's like they're only releasing it on NX. So it is a launch title for that, and everyone's very excited. There is a new Mario game that was shown for half a second during the video. So there's that.
Mario.
Yeah, there's a Mario Kart. There's a lot of questions about the Wii U backwards compatibility. It seems like it would make sense. Not sure how, but if you have to buy the games again, I'm going to be ticked off, but I'll do it. But
and I would say to perforate for radio, no one really does that anymore. Like they did it, but I'm not saying it's. Again, I'm not saying that it's not possible.
I didn't see what Perface for Radio said.
Oh, I'm sorry. She said the Dock Duo, which is a PowerBook line, had a faster processor, math code processor. From what I can recall, that was built into the dock. So when you attached the laptop, the PowerBook into it, it would basically increase some of the capabilities. But I mean, I'm not saying that it can't be done, and they've done it with a bunch of other things, but engineers generally haven't done it because it's just it's a very cost intensive thing for a moderate benefit. Like you're spending a lot of money for incremental improvement in experience. You know what I mean? It's not like you're putting on VR goggles and suddenly you're in the world of Mario 3D.
Ooh, the world of Mario 3D.
Nintendo should just open a theme park, and then.
Well, isn't that the thing? What's the latest on that?
What?
The Nintendo theme park. That's been kicking around for a while.
You get excited when you get to the door, and slowly, as you go through the entire experience, you get more and more disappointed.
They're doing a plan with Universal.
Yeah, no. The rumor was that's going to be where they put. Where they currently have Marvel, the Marvel area would be the Nintendo area.
So they're hoping to open it in Osaka by 2020. In time for the Olympics.
Nice.
I was taking a Nozomi down there. It's pretty quick.
Those funky nose trains. Those things are awesome. I love them. They're great.
Sonia wants to go back to Japan.
I want to go back to Japan.
Let's go.
It's a great. It's like one of those places that I actually had fun. Like generally when I get dragged around, it's like you just feel like you're dragged around, but it's fun there.
All right, I'm going to go and try to get some sleep.
Yes, thank you again,
enjoy that
Patrick.
sleep.
I sure will if I don't start dreaming of bad hombres and how
nasty women.
Nasty women.
Yeah.
I thought he was talking about that way, that color stripe that you get at a hairstylist, ombre, like that was. That's what I originally heard. I didn't realize.
There's some bad hombres here, dude. There's some real bad hombres here. All right, so here are all the quotes we got for the expansion.
Hi, Patrick.
All right,
Patrick.
Bye, everyone.
We got some bad hombres here. I'll keep you in suspense. I'm very proud to have the endorsement of the NRA, which I think is just a great non sequitur to play if you ever played the game. That was a great pivot. Such a nasty woman. Excuse me, my turn. You're the puppet. I understand the tradition of blank, which it was Hillary Clinton's line. I understand and respect the tradition of gun ownership. That is horrifying. Let me translate that if I can. I was just quoting you. I mean, who does that? And dozens of toddlers injured themselves with blank.
Was this from the debate or just a couple of 6-year-olds that were playing around in your house?
It's all from the debate to see who gets to run the country, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Also, 2 different topics in this expansion: Chinese steel.
Yep.
And $6 billion, which was what Trump accused Hillary of losing during her tenure at the State Department. $6 billion.
What was her snappy comeback? I mean, she had a really good zinger. It's like, wait, $6 billion? Wait, you should know about that. It's like, you just need to open, what, three casinos or something? Or is that from... No, that was Stephen Colbert. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because I saw that this morning. He had a really funny line.
Yeah, those are different people. One of them.
I know. Listen, I'm still a little loopy.
You got to give Roger a break. He just finished the paperwork for his house. So, yeah.
Oh, speaking of paperwork, do you mind if I bug you, Justin?
Sure. Yeah.
To fill out some paperwork?
No, just to basically figure out, are there any scheduling things I should be aware of for November, December with you?
Let me just take one little look. I don't think so, because
It's taking forever to export. Sorry about that.
It's because those trade barriers.
Must be that bad NAFTA deal keeping my Audacity file from exporting. But I'm gonna end the broadcast because you guys tell me if you want us to talk scheduling in front of you on this stream. I assume that's probably not the most entertaining thing in the world. Maybe I'm wrong. You tell me. We'll decide tomorrow. Maybe we'll talk scheduling tomorrow with Darren and Lynn.
Scheduling with Darren and Lynn sounds like a new show.